Is Solari the best option for Real Madrid? Is Mauro Icardi the heir to Ronaldo's throne? Who will Jose Mourinho buy with his new war chest? And will PSG be looking to Watford for their next midfield star? That and more coming up in the next few minutes, as I'm your host, Matt Froelich. You are the Onefootballers, and this is the Daily News. First off, and I'm sure you're already aware, as most of the world was before it even happened, that Lopetegui has been sacked from Real Madrid. After getting hammered in the Clasico, it wasn't a surprise to all, but what is more of a surprise is that Antonio Conte isn't going to take over. Well, not yet anyway. Apparently talks between him and Florentino Perez have stalled over money, and also senior players such as Sergio Ramos aren't too sure about Conte coming in to be manager. This has meant that there's now one of the hottest seats in football ready for the taking. So who will it be? Well, apparently aside from Conte, Pochettino has had his head turned after reportedly being unhappy at Spurs, the unhappiest he's been in his 5 years at the club. But aside from that, we could see the next Zidane coming through the Real Madrid youth system in Santiago Solari. The former Real Madrid player is now a coach at Castilla and their B team, much like Zidane, and they also played together in the early 2000s under Florentino Perez. But the main difference between the two is that unfortunately, Solari's name doesn't carry the same weight as Zidane's. Zidane was a legend for the club, an icon and one of their best players ever. Solari, not so much. As a manager, he's also not doing great things, and he has on more than one occasion said that Messi is by far and away the best player in the world. Definitely something you shouldn't be saying when you're working for Real Madrid. As for Zidane, he was also earmarked as a future coach, where Solari may have to step in for just a few weeks. That's not only because Perez doesn't want him full time, but also because a Spanish rule says that you can't have an interim manager in place for more than 2 weeks. So if he does, he'll have 4 games to deal with before being shipped probably back to the reserves as a new man comes in. So who do you think should be the next Real Madrid manager? Let me know in the comment section below, and furthermore, look out for our Real Madrid Q&A later on today, where I'll be answering lots of your questions from the community tab. So we've spoken about who's going to replace Lopetegui at Real Madrid, but who is going to replace Cristiano Ronaldo as the team's main goal scorer? Let's be honest, Bale isn't able to do it as he spends most of his time on the injury table, and Karim Benzema has never really been able to do it, as much as I think he is a decent striker. Well, whichever new manager comes in, they could do no worse than bringing in Inter Milan's Mauro Icardi. The Argentinian forward has scored just over 100 goals in just under 200 games for Inter Milan, and at 90 million looks well worth it, considering that to bring in any other top striker like Harry Kane or Eden Hazard, you're probably going to be spending between 150 to 200 million. Last night, Mauro Icardi proved he's worth that as he bagged 2 goals for Inter Milan away at Lazio as they won 3-0 to move up to second place. They are the closest challengers to Juventus at the moment, however, they're still quite a way off, and let's be honest, Italian Serie A is never going to be competitive as long as Juventus manage to keep this core together. So what could Icardi do? Well, he could join the team that are currently 9th in La Liga and start up a new rivalry which will have an Argentinian feel to it alongside Lionel Messi at Barcelona. And talking of big money signings, we come to Manchester United. Who else to spend a shitload of money on players which may or may not be worth it? In the summer, Jose Mourinho was angry that he didn't get the defensive replacements he wanted because apparently Jerome Boateng and Harry Maguire didn't improve on what they already had. That's right, Chief Executive Ed Woodward said that Jerome Boateng and Harry Maguire weren't better than Lindelof, Smalling, Jones and Bailly. It's no wonder the club's in such a mess. Anyway, apparently Mourinho won't be sacked and has been given around 100 million to spend in January. But there's one problem. He has 2 areas that he wants to strengthen, and with 100 million these days, you can't really do that. He's said to be looking at a striker who can actually get him some goals on a regular basis and a world-class defender. So basically, he can look to sign someone like Maguire or Boateng for around 50 to 60 million and maybe try to get in a decent striker on the cheap, which is around 30 to 40 million. Or he can do what is being reported in the newspapers, which is spend over 100 million on Raphael Varane. Now, I know he hasn't had the best start to the season at Real Madrid, but he's a World Cup winner. He's played at the highest level for 4 or 5 years, and he's still super young at just 24 years old. To be honest, it sounds like the perfect deal for Mourinho, but maybe not for Varane. I'm not so sure from his side I can see it happening unless United stump up some crazy wages for him. Maybe like the £505,000 a week they pay for Alexis Sanchez. As for Raphael Varane, well, I know he hasn't had the best start to the season, but he is a World Cup winner and he has been playing at the highest level for the last few years, and he's still only 25 years old. As for the move to Manchester United, well, it looks great for them as they'll be getting a world-class defender, but for Varane, is he really going to want to join? The only way I can see it happening is if they stump up the cash and pay the kind of wages that Alexis Sanchez is on, which is still an incredible £505,000 a week. That's right, they paid that much for 3 league goals this calendar year. Dreadful. And lastly but not least, we come to a transfer story of the day, which would boggle minds if PSG hadn't signed Lassana Diarra last year. Thomas Tuchel has been very open in the fact that he needs a new number 6 in his team, a midfield engine to provide some competition for the likes of Rabiot, who's yet to sign a new contract, and Marco Verratti, who has interest from Barcelona. Well, the fact that Diarra was signed on a free doesn't really help him in that department because he's aging, and to be honest, signing him in the first place is a little bit ridiculous. So what are PSG going to do to counteract this problem? Well, apparently they're going for Watford's Abdoulaye Doucouré. The midfielder was signed from his homeland France in 2016 for $4.5 million, but a few years later and with some impressive performances for the Hornets, could be moving back to the Mecca of French football. I say Mecca, but I mean money Mecca, where he'll get a shitload of money, way more than he's earning at Watford, by moving to PSG. By moving there, he's not only going to get a bucket load of wages per week, but he's almost guaranteed to win League A as well, so I mean, it's a no-brainer. Let's be honest, Watford are hardly challenging for trophies at the moment in England. What will it mean for the rest of the team? Well, as mentioned before, Diarra will probably drop further down the pecking order. Verratti and Rabiot will still keep their place but face rotation with Doucouré, and the likes of Draxler, who started in midfield over the weekend, will be able to push further forward and potentially replace Neymar should he leave. That transfer rumour is obviously still ongoing. But that's all from me for today. Make sure you click here to check out all the other videos we've got going on in OneFootball. Smash the like button down below and leave a comment on all of today's daily news. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.